Welcome back to a new post today. And we all know that we are already into the election mode and the first phase of elections very soon on April 19. So political parties, please do keep in your mind the MSMEs because they are the largest employment providers after the agriculture sector, and this sector has some woes, and that too with regard to GST. So this time today, it's about the MSME sector and their woes about GST and how they are now pursuing the political parties to make some changes in GST, because this tax rate system, which was introduced in 2017 and we recently celebrated 5 years, but isn't doing much very well, and it has hurt the economy much more than doing good to it. We bought into the GST because we wanted to do away with the multitude of VAT or the VAT tax system at the state level, but then we are doing the same mistake by imposing multitude of slabs with regard to the GST. And let's look at some of the woes that the MSMEs are bringing up. And apart from that, there is the tax economist who has suggested a single rate of GST, and not only that, but also sharing the GST revenue with the local governments. Let's have a quick insight into this, as this is definitely going to be helpful. As I told you, that MSME is the second largest employment provider after agriculture sector. So more than 6 years have passed away now with the introduction of GST, and the issue remains a bone of contention with several MSMEs clusters in different parts of the country. Let me tell you, they are the backbone of our industrial sector and a manufacturing sector in India. So they demand a reduction in the GST, which is a core demand of the representatives of the MSME as the country gears up for Lok Sabha elections. Now, according to the official government data itself, we have about 7 crore MSMEs across the country, and an estimated of 12 crore people are dependent on it. And if these units do well, then all those who are dependent on these units will automatically do well. However, over the years, the GST slabs have paralyzed many of these units. MSMEs do not have any resources or understanding, let me tell you, of this GST. Many small and micro companies are managed by a single person, but though these people are away, I mean they are out of the GST slab system, but then they supply the goods to the people who are under the GST system, and they are GST registered industries or companies, and therefore they are expected to provide at least minimum documentation and have minimum understanding of the GST system of the country. Now, these micro small scale units are unable to do so, many of them, and therefore they are losing out on the business to those who have at least minimum knowledge of this, and many people are affected, many companies are affected because of the GST. Now, in the MSME clusters, one of those in Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, Ludhiana, industrial associations have submitted demands related to GST to the candidates who are fighting the elections with respect to their constituencies. The main demand, now let me tell you, in one of the MSME clusters in Coimbatore is reduction of the GST on the labor charges undertaken by the micro small units in the engineering sector. The rate initially was 18%. With a lot of representation, it was reduced to 12%. It should be either 0 or 5%, they say. Now, while introducing the GST, the Union Minister said it would reduce the tax rate on the GST. It would reduce the tax rates when the GST revenue crosses 1 lakh. We are already reaching 1 lakh 80 crore with regard to GST collection, and this has already been achieved in March this year itself, that is last month. However, there is no move of reduction in the GST slabs. Now, one of the person related to a power loom association said that they have submitted a memorandum to the BJP government on the GST refund pending for the looms, weaving, viscose and fabric, and almost 2,000 units in the western districts of Tamil Nadu have to get nearly 1,200 crore of refund. So the GST refund is another big problem, that is the input credit system, where the companies have to get the refund back, and they haven't got the refund back. Now, close to 500 units have closed down business because of only the spending refund, let me tell you. And some of the large textile industries in northern India have gone to the court over this issue. In Ludhiana, auto component units pay 28% for some of the components. For those supplying to spares market, the cost goes up as they cannot take the input tax credit, and they need to compete with the units that are not registered with the GST. So there is no transparency in the business and many units face liquidity issues. This has been represented to the local candidates fielded by parties. Now, according to a person with regard to engineering association, MSME sector, then the hike in the GST for agriculture pump sets from 12% to 18% has affected the demand of the pump sets, as the farmers have to pay more for them. And many of the heads of these associations are saying that parties should now give priority to the MSME issues in the election manifestos, because this is the backbone, the spine of the manufacturing sector in India. Now, Kelkar was recently speaking about the GST reforms. He has been the chairman of the 13th Finance Commission, Vijay Kelkar. He is the architect of India's tax reforms and also spoke about called upon the next government of the next government of the country to undertake urgent reforms in the unnecessarily complex GST regime, such as switching to a single tax rate, as many countries do so in the world, like up to 12%, and sharing the revenues with the local governments and the municipal corporations, which we do not do as of now. Vijay Kelkar also mooted the creation of an independent secretariat for the GST Council, an apex decision-making body for indirect tax that was rolled down in 2017. As the current arrangement of the union government driving the secretariat may be considered problematic by the states. Now, he termed the simplification of the GST structure, which as a plethora of rates and the compensation cess on some goods, as a critically important fiscal reform that will need to boost employment and also growth in the Indian economy, and to take the GST regime to its most natural destination. Now, setting the tax rates largely with the objective to maintain revenue neutrality as done by India is counterproductive. This is what Kelkar says. So he says that there is a need for a single GST and not a multitude of taxes. The genesis of the current GST fraud, he says, lies in the very structure of the GST rates, as the high GST rates makes it lucrative for the fraudsters to evade taxes, he stressed. Instead, he suggested a single GST rate of 12% with the revenues equally shared by the three tiers of the government, that is the states, the union territories, and also with the local governments as well. Now, in most of the developed and emerging economies, he said that there is a policy of single GST or VAT on the rates of goods and services. The countries having a single and a simplified GST or VAT laws have been successful in optimizing tax revenue and also minimizing disputes. Now, he said that 80% have opted for a single GST or a VAT system, and these are Singapore, New Zealand, UAE and Japan. Now, stating that a single GST is still an unmet goal in India, he recalled that the single GST of 12% has been recommended by the 13th Finance Commission very early. So, very early on the GST debate itself, it recommended a single GST system. It would simplify the structure, quell almost all the classification issues, and also help to promote manufacturing, and not only manufacturing, but let me tell you, even exports as well. So this is what he also called upon the government to share the taxes with the local governments. The veteran economist Vijay Kelkar pleaded for the GST revenues to be shared with the third tier of the government created under the 73rd and the 74th Amendment Act. Unfortunately, our local governments are short of fiscal base to undertake investments for vital infrastructure and also for supplying quality goods to the public. Equitable sharing of the GST with the third tier will go a long way in strengthening the base of the urban governments and also to deepen democracy and governance at the grassroots levels. And this is what Vijay Kelkar says. So to enable this, we will have to amend the constitution. Firstly, we'll have to create a consolidated fund for the third tier of the government. Secondly, the GST reforms whereby the GST will be equitably shared by the centre, the states and the local governments as well as the municipal corporations. This is not only fair and appropriate as GST is a consumption tax and the taxpayers would see direct benefits accruing from the payment of their taxes. This is what he said. He said such an arrangement would bolster the quality of governance provided by the local governments as citizens' demand for quality public goods would grow louder once better services are offered, and also there is much better usage of the GST that is taken at grassroots level democracy as well, and also a simplified and much more better taxation system with regard to a single rate. This is what Vijay Kelkar says. So political parties, please look into the issues of MSMEs. This is definitely one of the biggest second biggest important economic issues after the agriculture sector. So I hope these points were really helpful to you all to understand what are the issues with regard to MSMEs, and now what do they demand from the elections of 2024. Hope so that the 18th Lok Sabha is really lucky for the sector and the agriculture sector with this, with agriculture sector also. On this note, if you did like, please do like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to comment at the end of the video, and I shall see you in my next post. Until then, it's very happy learning.